We have some major news to discuss today as more and more reports have surfaced regarding the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving potentially making a trade, and a recent report suggested what exactly Brad Treliving's trade plans are going forward. So we're going to break that down, as well as a report that came out revealing that Brad Treliving may have declined a pretty big trade involving two key Leafs prospects. So we'll break all that down, as well as a major injury update regarding Timothy Liljegren. So stay tuned for all that in this episode of Leafs Digest. Before we do get into the video, a quick reminder to hit the subscribe button. About 80% of you guys who are watching this video right now aren't subscribed. We're on the road to 5,500 subs, so make sure you scroll down, and if you aren't subscribed and enjoy daily Leafs content, make sure to hit that button. All right, let's get into the first topic of the day. It's a pretty big one. We have a lot to discuss today, and let's start with, of course, major Leafs trade updates. So we have a few things that have dropped from notable reporters and a couple of wild things regarding what Brad Treliving's trade plans is, what he has potentially already declined, and much more. So Pierre LeBrun, working on behalf of other NHL GMs, said that the Toronto Maple Leafs are frustrating for not wanting to trade Easton Cowan and Fraser Minten for a broken down 33-year-old rental, and this is in response to Treliving saying that, of course, he continues to try to find an available defenseman on the trade market, but has made it clear that Easton Cowan and Fraser Minten are off limits. Neither player is available, and the Leafs will not consider any trade that involves either player. Now, if you read between the lines a little bit here from Pierre LeBrun, it seems that the Flames want either one of or both of Easton Cowan and Fraser Minten for Chris Tanev. Now, I've been all for getting Chris Tanev all the way back to a couple weeks ago when we were talking about getting Chris Tanev and Nikita Zadorov in one package together from the Flames. And when you're looking at these prospects, reports have come out and the Leafs absolutely are not shopping Easton Cowan or Fraser Minten. Now, we discussed both of these guys at length over the past couple of days because, of course, with the World Juniors, Fraser Minten has made the roster. Easton Cowan, we're not 100% sure as of the time of recording. But the point is these are two very high-ceiling guys. Fraser Minten is probably a prospect that will make an impact as soon as next season. We already saw him have a phenomenal preseason this year and then play 4 games and then, of course, get sent back to the Marlies. But Brad Treliving does not want to deal either of these guys in any trade. And that's the begs the question now. Would either of you make a trade for one of these two? We're not going to say both of them, but one of these two. In Easton Cowan, who's 18, and Fraser Minten, who's 19, for a broken down 33-year-old rental, or any trade whatsoever. Do you agree with Brad Treliving's thought process here that for any sort of rental, specifically regarding Chris Tanev, who is having a very good season, but he just got injured. He's going to be okay, obviously. But he's 33 years old. He's a pending UFA. He's injury prone to a degree, especially coming off a major, not a major injury. He's back now, but what seemed to be a potential major injury at the time. Would you be willing to give up, say, Easton Cowan for Chris Tanev straight up, assuming you can re-sign Chris Tanev? And I don't know if that's the case, and it kind of reveals Brad's plans going forward. We've already known that reports, and more reports continue to surface regarding that the Toronto Maple Leafs and Brad Treliving wants a guy with obviously a right-handed shot defenseman with some potential term, not just going to be a UFA, and a guy who's obviously big, gritty, play defense. We need defense. We do not need offense. We experimented with John Klingberg. It didn't work. We need a guy like Chris Tanev and Nikita Zadorov, who obviously got traded to the Canucks now. But we need a player like Chris Tanev on the team. But when you're talking about UFAs, the trade value might be a bit lower. And when you're trading with the Maple Leafs, the Flames, of course, Brad Treliving used to be a GM for the Flames. It seems they are asking for Easton Cowan and Fraser Minten, or one of the two. And they will not consider any trade that involves either player for not only Chris Tanev, but also for seemingly any player going forward. They deem him as pretty untouchable, at least for a pending UFA. And this is going to be the big thing. When you are looking to make a trade not close to the trade deadline, like Brad Treliving is right now, obviously the trade deadline is early March, but the point is, the Leafs need to make a trade sooner than later. Their goaltender situation is rough. Ilya Samsonov has been brutal. Joseph Woll is injured. Martin Jones has also not been very good, about a 90 save percentage and 2-0. But the point is, if the Leafs are going to try to make a plan and make a trade over the next, let's say, couple of weeks, the price is going to be very high, because what motivation do the Flames have to trade a guy like Chris Tanev before the trade deadline, when there is no bidding war for him, when everyone is kind of just waiting around for a potential trade? If you're the Flames, you're either going to want to get an absolute steal of a deal, like getting one of Fraser Minten or Easton Cowan right now, or you're going to wait to the trade deadline when everyone can start bidding against each other. And that is the rough situation that the Toronto Maple Leafs are unfortunately in right now, is that they don't really have an available option. Benoit has been playing well, Lagesson, all these guys have been playing well, and we have a couple of returning defensemen, one specifically, which I'll break down in a minute here. But the thing is, if you need to make a trade like Brad Treliving does, you're either going to have to overpay heavy by trading a guy like Easton Cowan or Fraser Minten for a rental, or you're going to have to wait until the trade deadline and see if the price comes down a little bit, or if maybe more targets become available as teams fall out of the playoff hunt. But it's very interesting. It's a little bit frustrating if you're a Leafs fan, and I'm not sure I would trade either of Easton Cowan or Fraser Minten for sure for a rental, or I don't even know if I'd trade either of them at this point of their career anyway, with the way they've been playing, with all the hype surrounding them, and of course the World Juniors, Fraser Minten making Team Canada. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see, and I'm a little bit, this worries me a bit because if the price is that high for a guy like Chris Tanev, who's a pending UFA, albeit he's having one of the best defensive seasons of his career, one of the best seasons of his career up to this point in general, I'm a little bit worried to see what the rest of the trade deadline, the upcoming couple of weeks, if Brad Treliving is trying to make a trade for a defenseman, looks like, because he may also now be looking to make a potential trade for a goalie with the way Ilya Samsonov has been playing. And shout out to Brad for not giving Ilya Samsonov a bigger giving him a contract extension this offseason and letting his arbitration year play through to see how it goes this season. But let me know what your thoughts are on this interesting topic, and I thought this was a little bit crazy that came out. But let's move on now to injury updates. We have a big return coming tonight, which is super exciting. But before we get into that big return, let's quickly touch on Ryan Reaves. It seems he's going to be out long term, and they're going to place him on the injured reserve. He'll be required to miss 7 days, making his earliest return on December 23rd, so a day before Christmas Eve. Ryan Reaves obviously was a bit of a non-contact injury. He fell against the boards knee first and fell off and fell down again as he was going towards the dressing room and the locker room. Ultimately, Ryan Reaves was starting to play a little bit better. He hasn't been great this season. Obviously, we know that. He was starting to play a little bit better, but I'm not necessarily. I hope he gets better soon. But this gives a chance for some more guys to get some well-needed time on the ice. Some guys who haven't been getting as many minutes as maybe some would think they deserve. They'll get a chance now to showcase what they deserve. We obviously have a lot of players returning from injury slowly. Connor Timmins is back. But with Ryan Reaves going down, the injury bug continues to bite the Leafs. But let's quickly touch on the bigger story here, which is Timothy Liljegren, as of 34 minutes ago, will make his return tonight from an ankle injury suffered against the Bruins in Boston. This is very, very big. We've been discussing Timothy Liljegren for a while now. Not that he's an unbelievable defenseman per se, but we need all the help we can get on the blue line for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm sure Brad Treliving is happy to have him back. He hasn't been off to a great start this season. He had a solid season last year, obviously 1 point in 10 games, but getting any sort of production back from the blue line is going to be so key for the Toronto Maple Leafs, and having him back from injury is very good. I weren't sure if it was going to be tonight that he comes back, but it is indeed going to be today, his big return, and I'm super excited to see Timothy Liljegren hopefully get back to a shell of himself of last year and just provide some well-needed depth and some well-needed energy to that blue line that is pretty crippled right now. The goaltending's crippled. We're holding it down because of the offense. A shout out to Sheldon Keefe for what he's done with a crippled team, but again, despite the team being pretty crippled, we're doing decent. We're second place, and we're not doing too shabby. But that'll wrap up the video. Let me know in the comment section what your thoughts are on all this. Would you trade Easton Cowan or Fraser Minten for a potential rental? Let me know. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you tomorrow, and hopefully the Leafs can get a big win tonight.